All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Hart-Wisniewski. I'm the head of adult services here at Evergreen Park Public Library. And I'd like to welcome two very special guests with me today, Neil Steinberg and Bill Savage, who are joining me on Zoom. Hi, guys.
Hey, Jenna.
And why are we here? Because Mr. Savage will be interviewing Mr. Steinberg on Wednesday, March 22nd at 6:30 p.m. right here in our meeting room to talk about Neil's latest book, Every Goddamn Day, a highly selective, definitely opinionated, and alternatingly humorous and heartbreaking historical tour of Chicago. I love that. I love this title so much. I just love saying it.
That might be the longest subtitle in University of Chicago press history.
It was twice as long before I begged them to cut it. It must be some like 21st century search optimization thing. But yes,
what was it before they cut it?
I can barely remember what it is now. It's very embarrassing not to be able to know your own title by memory. But yeah, no, I'd have to check the records.
Okay. Well, so Neil, you are a Sun-Times columnist since 1987. And author, and you're going to be returning to the library to talk about your latest book, Every Goddamn Day, just because I like to say the title, based on your blog of the same name, right? Everygoddamnday.com.
Yes.
And you also authored other books, Out of the Wreck I Rise, and You Were Never in Chicago, among other ones, right?
Yes. You're Never in Chicago, edited by Bill Savage, I should point out.
Yeah. And speaking of Bill Savage, Bill Savage is professor of instruction in the English department at Northwestern University, and he is also an editor at the University of Chicago Press, and has also worked on several books with Neil. Bill has also been at the library for a discussion of his annotation of George Ade's 1931 book, The Old Time Saloon, Not Wet, Not Dry, Just History. He's a frequent guest on The French Room, a Southside reading series presented by Beverly Area Arts Alliance, a very Southside word, French Room.
Yeah. Oh, well, it was a North Side thing too. I think it's more of a bungalow belt Chicago word. I don't think it's purely Southside.
I think we just like to claim it. So before you guys visit us on Wednesday, March 22nd at 6:30 p.m., we thought that we'd take just a few minutes to get to know you a little bit better with some very hard-hitting questions. Are you guys ready? All right, here we go. So first of all, this is just a little get to know you. Bill and Neil, tell us a little bit about your relationship and how do you two know each other?
We are friends, which is very rare in the whole media world.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Bill. This is my perception of it. Bill used to write the paper. Still does. He's a serial letter writer and
local crank,
and he is a baseball expert. And I was invited by a gallery to do a reading of Casey at the Bat. And for some unfathomable reason, I wanted to know more about it. And I asked Bill to lunch so that we could talk about Casey at the Bat so that I could give an intelligent pre-reading speech at this gallery. And we started to communicate after that. Yeah. We have common interests in Chicago history. He teaches my book. I wrote he asked me, he came to, he was an acquisitions editor from the University of Chicago Press. And he said, we have this series, Voices of Chicago or something like that.
Visions and Revisions.
Chicago Vision. And he said, will you write a Chicago memoir? And my first response was this squeak, but I live in Northbrook and I grew up in Cleveland. And he said, do it anyway. And so, you have to go with your flaws and as a writer. So it's sort of a book about outsiders like myself who come to Chicago and try to make our way. And he was my editor. And normally with editors, by the time you're done with the process, they're the last person in the world. You don't want to see them until you actually die and go to hell. But Bill, it was a wonderful process. I loved the book. The book was on the front page of the Sunday New York Times book review, so it got a lot of attention. And we every couple of months he's in Evanston. I'm a graduate of Northwestern. We have tacos or whatever and catch up on things, and we're about the same age. And in fact, you were an advisor to Kent. We were an advisor. He was an advisor to one of my kids at school. So we kind of, fate keeps nudging us back. I've talked too much. Bill, what do you?
I would second Neil's narrative is exactly accurate. One thing that distinguishes Chicago literary and historical research culture and communities is while there are a few, cutthroat, me or the highway kind of people, there's a lot more cooperation and collaboration. Some of whom I think you've probably had at the library as well, like Sherman Thomas, and I call them the Chicago History Avengers.
Robert Lord. That's the
Robert Lord.
Bill is a bicyclist, and so he is and I've tried to write about them, but I one of them wouldn't talk to me, and I kind of, anyways. They bike around Chicago, and they take pictures of buildings and manhole covers. So I got one of my. I had a dream story on the front page of the paper. I always wanted to go to Neenah Foundry and watch them making manhole covers. I love to watch things being made. And so I wrote about Bill's Manhole Cover Monday, which is a Twitter thing where they tweet out. And it got in my head. I'd be in Rome, and I actually had a cabbie pull over because I was on the way to the airport because I hadn't yet shot a manhole cover, which is SPQR, which is on the Senate and the people of Rome. I had to have a manhole cover.
And this is what I'm talking about with the cooperation. Like, we're all in this together. We have common interests. We might disagree about how to interpret something or another, but we're all talking to each other. And that's something that institutions like the EPPL help promote as well. Like,
right,
we'll be there to talk.
Yeah, you're trying to find out various historical things. I was going mad trying to find a certain issue of the Chicago Examiner from 1900, and so I consulted with other people of what they do. And I'm sure there's areas of academia that are much more backbiting. I think it's our amateur. I mean, not your amateur status, but I think it's the fact that people are riding bikes and taking pictures, and I mean, with my books, my past 3 have been the University of Chicago Press, and when I get together with my friends who actually have commercial, best-selling publishing careers going, I'm invariably the happier because I can do whatever I want. I don't really have to worry too much about it being successful. And they're crushed because they want to have another bestseller, which is impossible to do.
So that's the background. Are you glad you asked?
Yeah, sorry.
I want more banter. I can't wait for next week. This is an easy one. What are you both currently reading?
I'll go first if that's all right. I'm actually preparing to teach a class at the Newry Library on the Grapes of Wrath. But the book I'm reading, this is a writer no one's ever heard of named Sonora Babb. And she was basically an ethnographer doing research on the migrant camps in California during the Dust Bowl. And she shared all of her notes with the guy who ran the camp, who, without her knowledge or permission, shared it all with John Steinberg. And he used it in Grapes of Wrath. And then Grapes of Wrath comes out while her book was in progress with another publisher. And the publisher was basically like, well, we can't have 2 books about this. Sorry, you're done. So the book was out of print for decades. The University of Oklahoma Press brought it back. And I'm reading it right now, and it's genius. It is just great. And again, Sonora, Sanora Babb, Babb.
Okay.
The title is Whose Names Are Unknown.
Whose names are unknown?
I'm reading a book called Cobalt Red by Siddhartha Kara. It's a book about cobalt mining in the Congo. A Canadian group called Journalists for Human Rights has invited me to go to the Congo in May or June. We're not quite sure exactly when. And I figure if I'm going, I should know. And it's a scarifying tale about how the lithium battery in the phone in your back pocket was most likely the cobalt in that phone was mined by a child near slave with a pick in Eastern Congo. And it's not the most fun book I've ever read, but it's very interesting.
See, that's why I love to hear. Those both sound fascinating.
Yeah, if people are interested, there's a book I just read called King Leopold's Ghost, which is about the whole history of the Congo. And that's again, it's not a fun beach book, and I don't want anyone to, everyone should read it, but you ain't gonna enjoy it. Let's put it like that. So, but it's if you're a human being, you should read it.
Mm-hmm. If you're curious, this is what I'm reading right now.
God bless you. So, it's it's so funny because because you used to have galleys and things, and so you would have a stack of paper, and I didn't realize how big that book was till I got it.
It's a cinder block.
It's been
this
weighing
is-
my backpack down for a couple days. Yeah.
I'm
It
so
is a
sorry
cinder
about that, but it's supposed to be read in pieces, and some people read it all the way through, and it's like eating a whole bag of chips. And I mean, my wife reads one every day, so she's still reading it.
Yeah.
It came out in October, so it's. Well, you tell me, are you enjoying it? You learning things?
I'm super enjoying it. I'm actually an audiobook listener, and so it's hard for me to actually pick up a book and read it. But I'm really enjoying it. I actually snuck away from the desk yesterday to sit by our fireplace and prop my feet up and just kept flipping pages. And
That's a huge.
Yes, any book that inspires truancy at work.
yes. Mhm. So thank you for that, Neil.
Well, there's a haiku quality to because the way this book came about was my blog is called Every Goddamn Day, where I write, unsurprisingly, every single day, or have grab things from my files. And the University of Chicago Press, Timothy Manel said, could you do a book of Chicago history like that? So it's 366 essays keyed to the date, which is a very limiting, it's both liberating and limiting in the sense that you have to choose which stories you tell. And also you have to go out and find a story and create a story for certain dates. And that took a certain amount of ingenuity.
Okay, now don't spill too many beans here. We got to say.
I was just going to say, we don't want to give too much away because we
Gotta
want to
show
leave
up
enough
next
for,
week.
yeah. If you want to know more, come and visit us on March 22nd.
You won't believe what happened next.
Yeah.
Okay. The hard hitting question, best pizza in Chicago.
Lou Malnati's, without question.
Okay.
I'll
I once taught I had a Malnati in a class of mine, and I felt like I was teaching Chicago royalty. I've actually written about this. Pizza is totally parochial. I can tell you the best pizza in Rogers Park because that's where I live and where I order my pizza, but also Evergreen Park. But I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily going to say there isn't something in Lincoln Park I have never had that wouldn't be really good. But I would say for up far north, Villa Palermo on Devon Avenue is a great pizzeria. And down south, I'm a big fan of Rosangela's.
Oh, God, the best.
Just had that last
Sorry to
Friday.
everybody else, but
Just had that
in
last
that way,
Friday.
fate served me up because I had to have some sort of pizza thing. And here's where dates are a problem. There is a date when Pizzeria Uno supposedly opened. I think it was December 1st, 1942 or whatever. But I had something I really liked on that date. And so the book was almost done and I still had not. So whenever I had a spare date, I would try to find a pizza thing. And I ended up with the obituary of a man who had a Southwest Side pizzeria. It was in no way, and I realized at that moment that the famous pizzerias, Giordano's, Lou Malnati's, Uno's, Eduardo's, etc., they almost serve to obscure these small pizzerias, which are the bulk of pizzerias. I'm sounding like an academic with this, aren't I, Bill? And so I called his son. He must have been shocked because he was quoted in the 30-year-old obit, and he sent me pictures of the pizzeria. So I focus on this, and I use it as a portal to open into all the others. But again, I have a saying that I quote in the book, it's better to be lucky than good. I didn't set out to capture the bulk of pizzerias, but fate just played a hand, and I did.
Well, I think your next book should focus on pizzerias around Chicago.
I don't know if people want to, it's actually not a bad idea either. What do you think, Bill?
Those books tend to get dated really fast because the place is closed.
Okay.
Yeah, he's right.
I mean, it's relatively rare that so unless it's a history of the pizzeria as a Chicago institution, it would probably not fly with the press. But who knows? Maybe Chicago Review Press or somebody else would like it.
I mean, it was interesting originally, because I had heard that the American servicemen coming back from World War II had brought pizza with them, and that just wasn't true. They popularized it. So I found these daily news articles from the 30s, and in the 30s, pizza is like this ethnic food, and they had to describe it. Yeah, it was kind of beautiful. It's like it comes in different sizes, and you can put different things on it, and it was sort of fun to see that. Yeah,
you eat it with your hands. It's so ethnic. Now it's as American as apple pie, which was once also probably ethnic.
Well, sushi is now an American comfort food. David Page did a book, was it Road Food Americana or Food Americana? And he argues that sushi is an American comfort food because they don't eat it in Japan too much. Which is true.
Cool. All right, so let's not get in any fights over best pizza at the thing.
Yeah.
We should mention Burt's as well in Morton Grove, because I do love, if you've never been to Burt's, it's this enormous charred black disc of a pizza. And it is, was it sui generis? It is a thing unto itself.
Yeah.
And that, that's the pizza I have the day before I die. It's like I gotta go to
That's what they'll serve at we'll serve it at your wake too.
serve that at my wake. Although, it has to be hot. You really Burt's, it does not travel well. You have to
Okay.
that Burt's. Although you could have an oven. If there's a kitchen at the wake and you bring the Burt's and you heat them up in an oven, then it's acceptable.
Well, if it's more, wake, of course, is my Irish Catholic background. In your faith, it would be sitting Shiva.
Right.
So you could have the pizza delivered.
Or you have the Irish wake at Burt's is probably the ideal thing.
Okay, all right, cool.
It's a small
All right,
enough place. And I think Edie would be good for that,
Always
note all of
eat.
this. You have to note all of this, Bill.
It's assuming I'll live in. It might be the other way around,
Yeah, that's true.
On the bike ride from Rogers Park to Evergreen, anything can happen.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Well, so let's play a quick round of this or that. Okay, this is going to be a lightning round. Ready? Fiction or nonfiction?
Fiction.
Nonfiction.
Doesn't surprise me, Neil. Book or audio?
Book.
Audio.
Okay.
I've been digging Audible.
Music or podcasts?
Music.
Music.
Okay. And Neil, did you just say Audible? Have you heard of the library app called Libby?
I do that, but sometimes it's hard to get books, and I want it now.
Okay.
So
I've
I
never
went through all 24 volumes of Patrick O'Brien's Master and Commander books, and I couldn't wait for Libby to serve them up. But I do.
I've never listened to an audiobook or a podcast.
It's tremendous, especially with books that you couldn't like for years I wanted to read Don Quixote, but you get this doorstop again, and then you get it on Audible, and it's like a bargain for your $14.95. You get 30
and you can speed it up and be done with it in like 12 hours. It's great.
It's not that, but you can do other things. So you're, painting the deck and walking the dog, and I walk the dog. It's an hour a day of forced reading.
Big multitasker over here.
Not me.
French fries or onion rings?
Onion
Fries.
Android or iPhone?
iPhone.
Are you guys sweating after those questions? Those were tough, right?
Those are tough. I gotta tell you, no lightweight you. Yeah.
I want to say thank you so much for your time today.
Welcome.
We super look forward to having you both here at the Evergreen Park Library on Wednesday, March 22nd. For those of you watching, if you haven't already registered, we still have plenty of space, but space is limited, so register soon. And you can do that by heading over to the events calendar at evergreenparklibrary.org, or you can call us at 708-422-8522 and register over the phone. Thank you so much, Neil and Bill.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see you guys on the 22nd.
1 week from today. We will
1
see.
week from today.
We shouldn't say that on the Facebook though, because it'll be tomorrow.
It'll confuse people.
Yeah.
Well, now I have to post it today.
March 22nd, whenever that is.
March 20th, Wednesday, March 22nd. Ides plus a week.
I will have 12 copies of the book to sell. So if you bring $25 if you're or a check if you want them, but they went before I even spoke, which was probably unfair. So I'm going to hold it till afterwards. Last time I spoke at Evergreen, so I was telling that was 12. So
we have a very ambitious group that just loves to read, so they will sell.
Oh, I just feel bad every time I go to a library. I don't, because you can only carry so much, and then the other people I have them call the book bin in Northbrook, and then I go and sign it there. So there is a way to get it, but it's not as satisfying as getting it on the spot.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, you guys.
No problem.
See you next week. Bye-bye, Bill.
Right. Bye.